Hello all, and welcome back to another Takeout Candy Church. So if you don't already have one of these baskets, that's okay. Give me a call at the church sometime this week and we'll make sure that you get one. So today we are going to start off with our candy of Sour Patch Kids. Now this one is kind of a little bit of an inside joke in my family. So when my sisters and I were younger, anytime that we would do something bad, we would always joke that my parents were going to trade us in for better kids. So one day, my dad gets a bunch of packages of Sour Patch Kids. He buckles them into the back seat of the car and he takes a picture and he sent them to us. So, we all laughed and we're like, oh, the Sour Patch Kids are taking over. But of course, it was just a silly thing. And it was fine because we were very secure knowing my parents wouldn't actually trade us in. Now, we know that not everyone has that same sense of security in their families. Families come in all different shapes and sizes, and God has made our families special. And every family is so different. So today, it's Mother's Day. We're so reminded of the fact that families are special. And so we're going to look at some mothers in the Bible. So we could talk about Eve, who was, of course, the very first mother. We could also talk about Sarah, who didn't become a mother until she was 90 years old. There's also Rachel, who was the mother of Joseph, like the one with the fancy coat. And Joseph's dad, Jacob, he had another wife too, actually, who was Leah, and that is Rachel's sister. And all of Leah's kids really hated Joseph, and so they sold him into slavery. So that is one pretty messy family too, but obviously a very important family in history, even though it was kind of messy and crazy and probably a very awkward Mother's Day. So we're going to look at a few other mothers today, and the first one that we're going to look at is Rebecca.
Once, there were twins named Jacob and Esau, and they didn't get along. They actually started fighting before they were born. Then during birth, Esau came out first, but Jacob was holding on to his heel. That's not normal, and they even look different. The Bible says Esau's body was covered in so much red hair, it was almost like he had clothes on. Jacob's skin was smooth. Well, they got even more different as they grew up. Esau hunted animals and spent time outside. Their dad, Isaac, was a big meat eater, so Esau was his favorite. Jacob, on the other hand, was a quiet guy who liked to stay indoors. Their mom, Rebecca, liked Jacob the best. The Bible doesn't talk much about Jacob and Esau as kids, but we do know Esau was lucky to be the oldest because he had what's called a birthright. That meant Esau would be in charge of their family, including all their money, land, and stuff. Jacob would probably have to work for his brother Esau, and their dad Isaac would give Esau a blessing, which means Isaac would ask God to take care of his oldest son Esau in an extra special way. Well, you probably think Esau was pretty excited about this, but he wasn't. In fact, one day he gave it up. He'd just returned from a hunting trip. Since he was out killing animals all day, he didn't have time to eat. He came home starving. Jacob was making stew, so Esau said, "Quick, give me some of that stew. I'm very hungry." Now, Jacob was a little sneaky, so he didn't just share the stew with his hungry brother, which would have been nice. Instead, he said, "First, sell me your birthright." And guess what? Esau said yes. It's a little like paying $1 million for a bowl of mushy soup. We don't know why Esau did that, but the Bible says he didn't care about the birthright. But later, when Isaac was really old and about to die, he wanted to ask God to take special care of his firstborn Esau. So he told Esau to go hunting and make him some tasty food, maybe for the last time. Now, Esau wanted the birthright, so he left right away to hunt. Meanwhile, Rebecca had heard Isaac and Esau talking, and remember, Jacob was her favorite. She wanted him to get the blessing, so she did something really sneaky. She told Jacob, "I will prepare tasty food for your father. You take it to your father to eat. Then he'll give you his blessing before he dies." See, Isaac was blind. She was telling Jacob to pretend he was Esau. But there was a slight problem with her plan. First off, Esau was hairy, so if Isaac touched Jacob's smooth skin, he would know the truth. The Bible says Esau had a certain smell too, which might be a polite way of saying he stunk. I mean, imagine how smelly a guy would be if he was always sweating and getting dead animal blood stuck on his clothes and matted in his hairy skin. And this was before deodorant. So even though Isaac was blind, he might smell Jacob or touch his smooth arm and know the truth. Well, Rebekah was sneaky like Jacob. She told Jacob to put sheepskin on his arms and wear some of Esau's smelly clothes. Now Isaac would never know. And even though Isaac wondered why the voice sounded like Jacob, guess what? The trick worked. Jacob got the blessing. Now Esau would have to work for him. As you might imagine, Esau was furious. In fact, Rebekah had to help Jacob run away so Esau wouldn't kill him.
So the second mom that we're going to look at today is Jochebed, and we're going to hear all about her from her daughter Miriam's perspective. And so we're going to look at it at this new Bible that I got. And it's got some really nice pictures, and it's got great stories in here, so it's one that you might want to check out. So listen to this story. I bet you'll find it a little bit familiar. My baby brother is so cute. Seriously, he's adorable. And he's special too. My mother said so. She told me there's something about him, that God has big plans for him. Someday. But he's in danger. Big danger. There's a new Pharaoh here in Egypt, and he doesn't like us Hebrews. He wants to kill all of our baby boys. My mom knew if any Egyptians saw my little brother, they would end his life. So with tears in her eyes, she laid him in a basket and put him in the Nile River. She hoped that somehow God would keep him safe. I just couldn't stand to watch him go, so I hid in the reeds on the bank of the river and kept a close eye on that basket. I knew God was watching too. It wasn't long before the Egyptian princess herself, Pharaoh's daughter, came down to take a bath in the river. She saw the basket right away and told her servants to fetch it for her. I held my breath and watched. The baby was crying as the princess pulled him out of the basket, but instead of throwing him in the river, she hugged him and held him close. I could see in her eyes that she felt sorry for him. I saw my chance. I ran up to the princess and said, "Would you like me to find a Hebrew woman to nurse the baby for you?" "Yes, please," the princess said. So I ran back home as fast as I could, and I told my mother. The princess asked her to feed and take care of my brother until he was a little older. She even paid us. My baby brother is special, all right. Not only did God save his life, but he also got to grow up in Pharaoh's palace. God had an incredible plan in store for my brother. The princess even gave him a special name. She called him Moses. So that is a pretty neat story. I'm sure you guys have heard that one before, but that is quite interesting, his whole growing up life as well. Now there's one more story that we're going to hear about, and today we're going to talk about Mary as well. And we're going to use this pretty cool Bible that I got to tell that story. So it is called the Big Picture Interactive Bible. Mine's kind of fancy, I could color it if I wanted to. But inside, there's a bunch of pictures with little codes. And if you get this special app on your phone, you can click on it and then the story comes to life. So this is what it looks like.
Angels spoke to Mary and Joseph. Long ago, the prophet Isaiah spoke about the coming of Jesus. Now, his prophecy was about to come true. God sent his angel Gabriel to speak to both Mary and Joseph. Gabriel told them about the child who would be born. He would be Jesus, the Son of God.
Each one of these moms has something important to teach us about moms. We'll start with Rebekah. She can remind us that moms are not perfect. Sure, God had told Rebekah that Jacob was going to be his chosen one and he was going to do some great things with him. But that doesn't mean that she should have taken sides and been so dishonest and all that kind of thing. It made their family life very hectic. And so Jacob and Esau had a rough relationship because of Rebekah's actions. You can read more about their story in the book of Genesis. Then we're going to look at Jochebed. She had made some pretty big scary decisions. She chose to defy the most powerful king in Egypt to try to save Moses. She was putting her whole family at risk in order to do this. But God used Moses for something really good. That doesn't mean that Moses had an easy life. He knew he was a Hebrew, but he was brought up as an Egyptian, and that was really confusing. So Moses had a rough time with that whole confusion. Now, when we look at Mary, we can see that God has chosen our families just exactly as they are. Even when we've got parents that maybe don't do things the way that we think they should, or they make decisions that affect us in ways that maybe we don't think is perfect, or we end up with a brother that is difficult, or whatever it might be, God has chosen our families. And even though these people that we looked at had difficult family situations, God used them. And part of who they were was because God had used their families to help shape them. So no matter what, God has made your family special. Even if you don't always see eye to eye with your mom or your dad or your brother or your sister or whoever is in your family, God has made that family and has made it special. And he's got a big plan for you, whatever it might be. It was a while before these people ended up doing something wonderful. And so they didn't always know right at the beginning. So even if you're thinking, I can't see what possibility there is for me right now, just be patient. God is using your situation to shape you so that you can do something great. God has made our families, and that is wonderful. For this next part, you are going to need your takeout boxes. You're going to need a plate, and you're going to need some water in something with a spout and some warm water. So pause me and go get those things. All right, so does everyone have their boxes and their supplies? So when you open your box, you're going to need to get your Skittles. So there are Skittles that are like the normal kind in the red container, or the sour ones in the green one. You can take both of them or one of them. Either one is fine. The sour ones we might use a little bit later too, but there's another one you can use there too. So either is fine. And Skittles are a great one to remind us about our families. Kind of the neat thing about Skittles is that they all taste different and they're all different colors. There's lots of candies that are all just different colors, but they taste the same. But Skittles are a little different. And Skittles remind us that our families are unique and special. So we're going to use these to help us remind us that our families are unique and special. And you know what? God has made the church like a family too. And so it's kind of like all the people at Westgate are like brothers and sisters. And so God has made the church also unique and special. And so even if there are days when you don't feel like your family is as special as you want it to be, remember you do have your church family that is very special and loves you. So grab your Skittles, and then we are going to make a beautiful picture. Also helps us remind us that families are beautiful however they are created. So you can make a little picture of maybe someone in your family, or maybe you want to just make a beautiful design, whatever you want. You're going to do it on your plate and divide them up however you like to make something pretty. And then we're going to take our warm water. We're going to pour it into our plate and just watch the colors. They start to run, and it just looks really pretty. I quite like it. Now, I'm not going to show you because then of course I'll just have a mess all over the place, but I'll take a picture and I'll put it on Facebook so you can all see my beautiful design. And I want you guys to do the same thing too. I want to see everyone's pretty designs. So this Mother's Day, as we look at our beautiful Skittles designs, I want you to remember that God created our family special. No matter how they look, they are special, and God has a plan for you and your family.